Robinson Future Farm. Today's innovations, tomorrow's solutions.
Hello and welcome back to Robinson Future Farm. I'm your host, Jim Robinson, and I'm here with Todd Claussen. Todd, welcome back after many episodes.
Always good to be here.
Yeah, so Todd, we are standing here at Future Farm shortly after harvest, and boy, what a year did we have. I mean, can you walk us through a little bit of the year that we've seen in 2025?
Yeah, as we're here in the first part of October, being out here, it almost makes me sad. Mm-hmm. You and I farm too, but being out here, we spend so much time on this farm and the 35 others that we have, the future farms that we have around. It just makes me really melancholy when all of a sudden it's over. Mm-hmm. But again, like every year, this is different, and it was pretty tumultuous. And nothing ever moves at a consistent pace, right?
Yes.
So it's ebb and flow, high water, low water. So we had pretty decent planting conditions, although we stretched out a long planting season, probably a 6.5 week planting season. Then we were inundated with a lot of rainfall early, and then depends on where you're at. As we moved into that pollination period, last week of July, first part of August, the heat came rolling in, and then there are a lot of places that after the 10th, 15th of August, they've had no rain, and so it had tumultuous effects on this season.
No, Todd, you're right. I mean, this looks like it was going to be a record-setting crop, and not by a small amount either. In early July, we thought this was going to be just an enormous crop, and here we are through harvest, half of way through harvest, and it's a good crop, but it's not what we thought it could be. I mean, there are a lot of factors that influence that, and while guys are harvesting right now, they're starting to try to make decisions on what they want to plant next year for corn and for soybeans, and that's a really dangerous thing to do. I mean, it should be something that informs you on what you plant for next year, but there's a lot of pitfalls to picking your hybrids based on what you see in the combine this year. Yeah. So what are some of those pitfalls?
So the first pitfall, that I think of, as we started the season, we were off to a good start. And to have a good harvest, to have a good finish, you need a good start because you have to build that foundation through these real important reproductive phases of at least the corn crop's life. And so we had a great foundation. But then as we moved through the season really wet early, we know some areas that had almost 4 feet of rainfall from planting till harvest time. Well, that's not a good thing. We also know people that didn't have that much rain. So as you're sitting on the combine, I liken it to us as a seed brand. Seed sellers, they can't wait for our data to come out, right?
Yes.
Boy, they grab that paper and they run out and they go, hey, look at this hybrid, right? By doing that, we're betting next year is like this year. And so some of those pitfalls become right there. We have to look at multi-year, multi-season. And I just mentioned data, and data. We have 394 corn trials across 9 states. And when we think about those data, those plots are for us. And I mean that sincerely. We talk to our internal team. These are for us. They're not for farmers. They're not for customers, because they're for us to understand what products do, how they move across big geographies, which mean different environments, and everything, the intersection of performance on corn, genetics, by environment, by management interaction. And what's here is different than what's across the road, and this interaction right here, right now, we'll never see it again. So we have to plan for a average season, which there isn't one, but we have to plan for a season different than 2025.
Exactly. I mean, you think about 2025, and the conditions we had in 2025 were somewhat similar to 2024, but different. But we saw a lot of southern rust across broad geography. I mean, this is the worst southern rust year that we've had in 10 or 15 years, and a lot of people today are making hybrid decisions for next year based on southern rust this year. But what happens if we get a 2022 or 2023 where tar spot was the predominant disease? I mean, that's a totally different set of hybrids.
Well, and as you mentioned that, so we're looking at a heavy southern rust season, right? Southern rust comes in early, but you have to remember, even though we have a lot of the pathogen here, it needs a living host to overwinter. So it won't overwinter unless it's got a little bit more tropical climate. So it doesn't overwinter here. So you start with a clean slate as it regards to southern rust as we think about next year. But you mentioned something, those are a completely different set of hybrids, because ironically, those hybrids that are really strong with tar spot, good late season health, aren't very good with southern rust. And so if you select for southern rust, again, the dynamic switch is good southern rust is not very good on what?
on tar spot.
There you go.
That's exactly right. Yeah. But
It's tar spot over winters, so we know we have the pathogen.
Exactly. And it's all about those conditions that we get. So as we're selecting hybrids, what we recommend to our sellers and to our farmers that we sell seed to is that let's look at multi-year data across a broader geography than just your county.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about here in eastern Nebraska. This year, due to the rainfall pattern, we experienced more of an eastern type of year. So eastern for us would be more like a central Iowa or maybe eastern Iowa type of year. That next year we could flip and experience more of a year like Kearney, Nebraska. So we can't pick hybrids based on just this year, because next year we might want some of those western hybrids.
And conversely, the big portion of Iowa hasn't had any rainfall since after the 1st of August. And so you had that huge foundation out there, and you have hybrids that are reliant on kernel count. They did really well, but those hybrids that rely on kernel depth and kernel flex, they're going to be shortened up a little bit. So we have to plan what we want to plan for in our portfolio, because we're the ones that walk crop 394 plots from cradle to grave. We walk them 130 days a year, right? And so our goal is to have the best hybrid on the farm and the poorest hybrid on the farm, because you're going to have all of it. And if you're going to roll the dice and select without diversity, genetic diversity, or are you going to roll the dice? And I mean, because if we can predict what 2026 is going to do, it'll be the last time we have to predict it, because we'll live on a beach.
Exactly.
So you have to look at diversity. You have to be diverse across geography and across seasons, and that's why we walk 130 days a year, so we can better present, portray, and set expectations for these products on every farm out there.
Exactly. That genetic diversity is so important for us and for our customers, because with a diverse set of genetics, we can provide a sense of insurance. A farmer can ensure that he's going to have at least one hybrid that's going to do well in that year. Hopefully all of them do well. But that diversity is really what we like to preach, that buy multiple hybrids, plant multiple hybrids, and make sure that they are distinctly different from each other.
Well, even with diversity across, let's say you're planting 3 hybrids, and you can have diversity across those 3 pedigrees, and they all still can do really well on your farm, because they're selected for that farm. But now if you have these high water and low water marks with the environment, you're going to get separation in that diversity between those pedigrees.
Exactly right.
And so you're going to have more of an effect on one, and remember that the environment is your wild card.
Yes, it is. And so, overall, selecting hybrids from the combines, not a bad idea, just to get your sense of what you felt about this year, but don't make that your sole deciding factor for selecting hybrids. It's the multi-year, broad geography set of data that you want to look at before you settle on what your package is for next year.
Can't go with your gut based on this year.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Todd. I appreciate your time today.
Always a pleasure.